And ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the prosecution is not going to get that man today. No, because I'm going to get him.
This is the Hagmann and Hagmann Report for today. It's a fabulous Friday edition. Today is April 12th, 2013. This is a live broadcast. I'm Doug Hagmann. With me in studio is my co-host, my son, fellow investigator, Joe Hagmann. Together we are the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. I want to say hello and welcome to all of the listeners across the world, from Bakersfield, California to Tampa, Florida, up through Vancouver to Ottawa and to Montreal. Welcome. And also in Europe, specifically in France. We've got a couple of people listening right now in France, where it is extremely late or early on a Saturday morning. That said, we've got a lot of news, a lot of headlines, a lot of issues to get into tonight. One of the big things that we're going to be talking about is, folks, have you been hearing about what's been going on in the state of New York? That's right. Joe, welcome.
Very happy to be here, and also very happy that it is a Friday today. It has been a long...
I didn't know if you got them on, if you know, or I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I didn't know if you were... If you needed more time to get somebody on the monitor, what's taking place?
Oh, no, yeah, I can do that. Well, and for folks who are listening, we were having some distortion that apparently every time we play a commercial or answer the phone, it seems to be a blog talk problem.
So Joe's trying to, what Joe was trying to do was to get a live individual to monitor in real time what is taking place. And of course, the last time that took place, it was cleared up very quickly. But
yeah, let's start with this, and this will be a good way I can gauge to see how the system's working. I got a short audio clip I want to play from Senator Lee. And this on the gun legislation.
All right.
They were not, the Democrats tried to push a vote on the gun legislation before they provided the text of the bill to the senators. And this is one of them explaining it.
Bills do not address. You see, Mr. President, these are the rights that we're trying to protect by requiring a 60-vote threshold on any new gun control legislation. And in so doing, we're trying to prevent the ability of members to push through legislation before anyone has had time to read and evaluate the language, and then tell the American people what that language means for them, what that language would mean for their rights. Unfortunately, that is exactly what we are faced with today. Yesterday, Senators Toomey and Manchin announced a new proposal that's widely expected to replace the current language on the background checks in this bill. And yet, as of this morning, as of this very moment, not a single senator has been provided the legislative text of that very provision. Because the background check measure is the centerpiece of this legislation, it's critical that we all know what's in the bill before we vote on it. As I've argued on this floor, and also in the national media and back home.
There it is. The bill was pushed on the representatives without them being able to read the bill. And
are we seeing a pattern developing here? We've seen this with the health care plan. We've seen this with other issues. Now this.
And the title on the article that is treason alert. This from InfoWars. Dems try to move gun bill forward without allowing senators to read it. Like the disastrous, unconstitutional Obamacare bill that was rammed down the throats of American people, the unconstitutional S-49 gun bill aimed at the heart of the Second Amendment passed earlier today in the Senate with 68 votes, despite the fact senators have had not the chance to read it. Now, what kind of circus kangaroo court is being run out of Washington?
I think it's clear what's taking place here, and together with this next story, I'm going to just jump right into this because we've got so much to cover today. This next story is really huge. As a matter of fact, I was on WBEN AM 930 and their sister AM station out of Buffalo, Niagara Falls, New York, Western New York today, this morning on the Tom Bowerly Show about this, and then I'm going to be on with Alex+Jones on InfoWars this Sunday. I believe it's 7 o'clock Eastern Time or 6 o'clock Eastern Time. I'm not sure. I've got to double check the schedule about this very issue. But today I was on the I was on the air with Tom Bowerly and also Jim Tresmond of the Tresmond Law Firm in Hamburg, New York. He is representing the man in Erie County who had his rights violated by the New York State Police, and there was this attempt to take his firearms away from him, supposedly under the auspices of the under Section 9.46 of the New York Safe Act, because of him reportedly taking, or allegedly taking anti-anxiety medication. Well, the problem with this, of course, is it didn't happen. It was this gentleman, the target of this, and I really almost don't even want to give his name. You can find it on the internet, but you know, it's I'd much rather talk about the people behind this and give his name, only because you're actually talking about someone's rights and someone's privacy. But the fact of the matter is, New York State Police, the superintendent of the New York State Police, James D'Amico, and Governor Cuomo had a meeting earlier this week, and they said that, okay, we are going to use, we're going to circumvent the HIPAA legislation, the Health Insurance Portability and Privacy Act, to identify those people who have had or who are on currently or had in the past several years have been taking anti-anxiety medication. And it could be just a one-time situation, or it could be a chronic situation. It could be for sleep. It could be for whatever. But the bottom line is they circumvented this person's Fourth Amendment rights. They circumvented the health care legislation that exists today and went after this man's guns. To make matters worse, they lied about it. And Tom Bowerly, through his sources, found out that they lied about it. So this morning and Tom had worked on this to find out the details of this case until like 2 or 3 o'clock this morning, and he went on there at 9. And so I know some listeners are from Western New York, and they're listening to this broadcast, and might have heard me on this morning. But so Tom called me up about, I don't know, it was like 7:30 this morning, and said, hey, do you know about this case? And it's interesting because John from Braveheart Radio, the American Patriot Radio Network, John from Braveheart Radio had alerted me to this situation earlier in the week. Well, yes, and I did know about it. So the information I had confirmed the information Tom developed during the night, So it was almost like this very grand aha moment in our investigative research that we had done. And Tom says, I cannot believe what I'm seeing. I just, he said, I can't believe this. And Tom is a very, very strong proponent of the Second Amendment. And he's very angry, of course, at what's taking place in New York. And he's got a very large listening audience and a very incredibly large listening audience. So having said that, he said, look, can you come on with me during the show? And I said, sure. And then, of course, I went on, I think, at 9:30. His show was from 9 to noon. I went on at 9:30. And it was at that time that I was able to talk with both the attorney, Jim Tresman, from the Tresman Law Firm, as well as a local legislator. Now, I got to tell you, folks, this local legislator, Joe, remember the movie My Cousin Vinny? Joe Pesci, when he was
of course I do. Yeah.
And at the end of one of the witnesses he was examining under direct examination, or maybe it was cross, I don't know, but it was either I think the judge says, do you have any further questions for this witness? And Pesci says, no, I got no use for this guy. Or I got no further use for this guy. It was just a funny moment. Basically, Tom asked if I had any follow-up to what this local lawmaker had said, which was a bunch of nothing. And I felt like saying that line that Joe Pesci said, I got no further use for that guy, because he said nothing, about what, he didn't even know about it. In fact, he didn't know about it until Tom told him. But here's the deal, and I'll just be very quick about this. In New York State, the governor, and that's Governor Cuomo, this man he should be, in my view, it's treasonous is what he's doing. He's going against the Second Amendment.
You don't need 10 bullets to kill a deer.
Well, yeah, unless you're a bad shot, apparently. But it's not about hunting, of course, we know that. But here's the deal. Cuomo and the police, New York State Police Superintendent, D'Amico, and they're friends, by the way. Cuomo and D'Amico are good friends. Earlier this week had a meeting, and they said, here's what we're going to do. We are going to identify those people who fall within this category, and the category is whether or not a patient or a person is on or has taken any type of anti-anxiety medications. And if that's the case, we are going to take one or two and make an example out of those people. Okay, and that's how it started.
Now, this is really interesting, okay, because what you told me today, that this was basically a beta test to see how it would work if they did this to people. Now, they screwed this up so bad. It's a misidentification. First of all, they got the wrong person, correct?
Well, actually, no. That's what they said. It was they said,
okay.
Whoop,
oh, and now I got it.
Got the wrong guy.
They said they got the wrong guy after it was said and done, because they knew they didn't follow procedure. They didn't have the witness. They didn't go get a warrant for the medical records, and all around mess up by the police. When you are a police officer, there is a way, standard operating procedure for evidence. Physical evidence, right at the crime scene, you put it into a bag, you seal it, you put your name on it, and it's the chain of custody. The evidence has to be accounted for at all times by the person who initials it, and it has to be sealed. And if the seal's broke, there's lots of rules pertaining to evidence.
Oh, yes.
So, and you can get major cases, evidence thrown out from one little procedural slip-up from the police. Can ruin a whole case and get all the evidence tossed. I'm sure you guys have heard from the poisonous tree. So what happened is they got called out on this. They got caught breaking the law, the police. And now, if this was a test to get the reaction of how people were going to react from having their guns taken away for being on medication, they really dropped the ball on this. And I am interested to see and listen to the lawyer and what he has to say. I know that you said this man is taking legal actions against the county.
Yes. Well, and here's the important part of this. I mean, well, it's all important, but New York State has established a covert, a clandestine unit specifically to circumvent medical privacy and Fourth Amendment rights to grab your guns. Folks, did you understand what I mean? I know you did, but let me repeat this. New York State has established a covert, clandestine unit to circumvent medical privacy and Fourth Amendment rights in order to grab people's guns. And this was the test case, or this was well, I shouldn't say test case. This was the case that went bad.
And I got a question in chat here from Chris. He asks, what about police officers on medication?
Well, it's interesting because Tom and I off air had that same conversation with some chuckles, because we do know, both of us know police officers that are on anti-anxiety medication, and for good reason. Look, being a cop's not an easy job, but that said, all right, yeah, but forget about that. But you know, isn't it amazing how what we're seeing is this Cuomo and this superintendent engaged in this Gestapo tactic. But here is the kicker that I brought to the table. According to our sources, this is the DHS template for the nation. See, this was a Joe Biden. It came from Obama. The instructions came from Obama to Janet Napolitano. Napolitano had talked to various state police superintendents or commissioners, depending on what state you live in, what their title would be. New York State, because of Cuomo's relationship with the Obama regime, that was ground zero for this particular initiative. But it was handed off to Joe Biden to really coordinate this. So there was a meeting between Biden, and this was planned out between Biden and Napolitano, and of course a police commissioner, and the governor, and they created, whether formally or informally, they created this covert Gestapo type unit. And I'll be explaining this on breaking it here, obviously, first on the Hagmann report, but I will be talking more about this on InfoWars on Sunday night. Perhaps by then we'll also get additional information, and I'll be updating the website as well at HomelandSecurityUS.com about this, because it is so important. But see, this is the template that they're going to use. They've already done this to veterans. They're doing it to veterans. Now they've expanded this backdoor gun confiscation policy to include those who have taken in the past. One source said 10 years, another said 7. There was a third individual who said, well, we don't really have any time limit at all. We can go back as far as we want. But this specific group or posse, this covert group of this unconstitutional covert group, are actually accessing the online database of your records if you live in New York. And they're also using pharmacy records as well. Now, this is where the big lie comes in, because in a letter published on yesterday, the superintendent denied using any type of pharmacy records whatsoever. Well, as you said, Joe, to avoid the fruit of the poison, or to avoid, or to for kind of like a belt and suspenders approach, it's my understanding in at least one occasion, and there are more occasions or more cases like this, but at least one occasion, this is the highest profile case, they have checked with pharmacies to determine the status of the medication in the person. But there's no way in the world, ladies and gentlemen, that you should believe, or anybody should believe, that this person or this situation was a case of mistaken identity. It backfired when he got a lawyer familiar with the Fourth and Second Amendment and said, wait a minute, we're not going to put up with this. And then they backed off and says, whoops, sorry, wrong person. No, that's not the case. It was the correct person. They just got caught doing something they shouldn't have been doing. And this victim, the subject of this so-called investigation, which wasn't an investigation at all, had enough sense to grab an attorney and to fight it immediately, which they were not expecting. So we are seeing right now this backdoor gun confiscation take place in the state of New York, the county of Erie, which is includes Buffalo, Niagara Falls. Well, I shouldn't say Niagara Falls, that's Niagara County, but Buffalo and western New York, a lot of western New York, it's the county of Erie. That's what we're talking about here, which is ground zero for this New York State gun grab initiative based on the New York SAFE Act, which was just passed by Cuomo. That's the long and short of it. And it is and by the way, you see, not only did they get called, not only did they make a mistake or said they made a mistake, the citizen involved was called multiple times on his private cell phone number by Sergeant Jackson of the New York State Police. See, in other words, the New York State Police did not make any kind of mistake. Contrary to their deceitful statements, they had exactly the person they wanted. But, they're not lying, of course, right?
No. It's just amazing the levels they'll go to get their agenda pushed through. While we're talking about guns, I found this kind of interesting. Representative Steve Stockton is his name, and he tweeted out a pretty interesting message on a little picture here, or a campaign bumper sticker, and he put it up on Twitter. It says, "If babies had guns, they would not be aborted."
That's pretty good.
Now, Friday, the representative tweeted the slogan for what he said would be his new campaign bumper sticker, which combines two hot-button conservative issues, abortion and pro-gun and anti-abortion. The congressman
kind of makes you think you would have thought of that, right, folks?
The congressman's inclusion of the hashtag #NawShell puts him in a group of conservative commentators who think this week have sought to bring media attention to the trial of abortion doctor Kermit Gosnell, who was arrested last year on murder charges. Media fears Gosnell's story will help people connect the dots. Killing a baby in utero is no better than doing so moments later after birth. Now, tonight we have a little pleasant surprise. We're going to be joined by Susan Price in a few minutes, and we're going to be talking about the Illuminati and the evil that is in the military. And before we do that, came across, you guys are familiar, those of you familiar with Alice Bailey, Lucis Trust, and the United Nations. I was going over the Lucis Trust website yesterday and looking at some things today, reading some of their latest publications, And I came across their 10-point plan by Alice Bailey. And I'm going to read, it'll take just a few seconds, or a few minutes here, these 10 points for those who haven't heard of this. And this will give us a better idea of why we see what we see in our society, why things are changing. And an example of one of the changes and this just came out a few days ago on the FCC. They are relaxing, they sent out a notice regarding the relaxation of indecency standards on cable TV to show frontal nudity and the use of the F word coming to cable near you. But listen to this.
Just what we need.
Yeah, listen to this list, and we'll get back to this FCC standards change. Number 1, and this is called the 10 strategies of the plan. Number 1, take God out of the schools, God and prayer out of the education system. This will let a person grow up without the references and foundation to God. They want God to be irrelevant and think God is irrelevant to most people. Now, keep in mind, this was written, I don't know, however long ago. It's been over 60 years at least. And
Alice Bailey lived until 1949. She was born in 1880. Yeah. And her followers, I mean, she's behind theosophy and what she has termed ageless wisdom. She was big into occult teachings, esoteric psychology, and healing and such. So, but this is a plan, as Joe stated, and you can continue as what's taking place here and what's being pushed via the United Nations and what is being pushed here in America from outside external sources.
Yeah. Number 2, destroy the Judeo-Christian family structure or the traditional Christian family. They go on to say by pushing excessive child rights, you can do this through promoting sexual promiscuity to young people through the schools, also through media, TV, magazines, film industry, to promote sexual enjoyment. It continues. Number 3, remove restrictions on sex. This is really terrible. It says Christians are holding people back from the joy of free and open sex. This is what it says, okay? Number 4, since sex is the greatest expression of joy in life, man must be free to engage in all forms, whether it be homosexuality, orgies, or even bestiality. Now, we've seen bestiality in the military. They've made bestiality legal in the military. Number 5, people must be free to abort unwanted children. Okay, must be. This is before Roe v. Wade. Number 6, soul bonds. People need to embrace soul bonds. Now, this is saying married people need to have the option to be free to be with other people regardless of their marital status. This will further deteriorate the family. Number 7, diffuse religious radicalism. It goes on to give an example that Christians say Jesus is the only way. Diffuse this by promoting other faiths. Also by promoting interfaith harmony. Number 8, use the media to influence mass opinion. Number 9, debase art in all forms, corrupt music, paintings, poetry, and every expression man makes to be immoral and occultic. And number 10, get the church to endorse all 9 of the previous steps.
Have they succeeded? Yeah, how's it going? How's the plan working? Sounds like we are well on our way.
And do you have a link to the what you sent me, because what I got was from somebody bought the book and I jotted it down.
No, this actually was this is a fruit of my research. What I can do is
just send it to the studio Skype, and I'll put it up in the chat room.
It's not in a form that I can do that. It's actually it's not together. Well, I mean, what I sent you is not.
Okay.
So
people just search the 10-point.
No. Here's what I'll do. I'll put something together and have it up on our website here within the next 24 hours, because I was just while you're doing that, I was just talking to Tom Danheiser. I'm going to have to be on Coast to Coast tonight, so I'm going to have some time in between the show and Coast to Coast to do this. So I'll have it on our website so people can refer to it, because this is so important. I mean, this is the architecture of this strategy. Almost in its entirety, adopted by the United Nations, and
yeah. And listen, this is from the Lucis Trust, okay? And this is the same place. And you got to move the mic away from your shirt or face, whatever it's rubbing up against there. Thanks. They put together a group called the New Group of World Servers, and these are a band of imperial mystics, occultists, philosophers, et cetera. Basically, what this all boils down to, through the terminology and use of words like goodwill, cooperation, fixing the world's problems, they say they can only do this with a world religion, and that religion is through Lucifer.
Well,
to make it real simple.
Exactly. And it's interesting that, Madame Blavatsky, Besant, and Alice Bailey were well-known Masonic leaders of the day. Albert Pike referred to Freemasonry as the custodian or special guardian of these occult secrets, and revealed the hidden agenda of his institution, forming a Luciferian one-world government, or to form this Luciferian one-world government. So, to give people the background as to what's taking place, and I think you did a good job here going through it. I mean, take prayers out of the educational system, reduce the parental authority over the children, and what did that Melissa Harris, or whatever her name is, from MSNBC do on that recent commercial? But just that very thing, talking about that.
We have never invested as much in public education as we should have, because we've always had kind of a private notion of children. Your kid is yours and totally your responsibility. We haven't had a very collective notion of these are our children. So part of it is we have to break through our kind of private idea that kids belong to their parents or kids belong to their families, and recognize that kids belong to whole communities. Once it's everybody's responsibility and not just the households, then we start making better investments.
And there it is.
Are those just the kids that obviously survive or don't get aborted? What about the children who are aborted every single day?
And this, and I got a lot of emails about last night about the questions. Well, why are you reading, or not reading, but why are you referencing what's this New World Order stuff, and why is this important? And there's issues that people had about this. Well, for this very reason, because we have people today that are going through this, and not going through this, but we have people today who are advocating these 10 points or various parts of these 10 points, and from that we can see what is taking place. That's why this woman from MSNBC got on the air, because this is their, once again, like the backdoor gun confiscation, this is the backdoor introduction of this Luciferian agenda of the Illuminati into today's society. This is what's taking place. People have to know this, so they're either they've got to know this. You've got to understand the plans. And I know our audience is of that caliber. Every one of you are of that caliber where you do understand.
Right. Oh. And we played that clip for a reason, because immediately afterwards we played a clip that Rachel Maddow was talking about how 28% of Americans from a recent poll or survey said they believe in a New World Order. And we went through all the MSNBC hosts and their attack against people who believe this, from Lawrence O'Donnell saying it was ignorance that caused this, from Chris Matthews saying it was, racist hate that has caused this belief. And we went and played a compilation, 5-minute compilation of world leaders from banks, the banking industry, political sector, all calling for a New World Order. Even
exactly.
Even Obama.
Yeah, well, I mean, we can go right through the list, and this is so important because once you, as investigators, and I'm a linear thinker as opposed to, and that's a blessing and a curse, kind of like from Monk, the television series. But I guess what I'm saying is, the way I like to have things tied together, and I like to see, from beginning to end, kind of what happened, understand exactly what the crime scene is. And what we're seeing is an ongoing crime scene play out with respect to this New World Order agenda and this Illuminati/Luciferian occult agenda, which is why, by the way, I had talked to my very good friend, Ms. Susan Price, today about this very issue, and Susan is just a great person. She is the mother of a Marine who, in my view, was executed in Afghanistan. Not only executed for what he knew, and he knew a lot, and he was left to die. And it's a very sad story. Her website, by the way, is priceforjustice.com. That's priceforjustice.com. Her name is Susan Price. Her son, and God bless him and God rest his soul, is Aaron Kennefick from Western New York. And on Price for Justice, you'll find the biography of Aaron. You'll find out about Susan, and you'll find out about the Ganjgal ambush that took place. And then you'll also find out about the very people in our government who are still in our government who are responsible for this young man's death, this murder of this young man. But behind it all, behind our involvement in Afghanistan, behind the international banking that runs the heroin and opium drug trade in Afghanistan, is this Illuminati framework. Now, with that, we have Susan Price with us. Susan, God bless you. Welcome to the Hagmann and Hagmann Report.
Hi, Dr. Joe. How are you? Thank you for having me.
Very well, thank you, Susan. And it's since you were on a couple of weeks ago, introducing, of course, your website, priceforjustice.com, and of course all of your research that you've done and everything that's it's been incredible. You've since, and you told me this today, ladies and gentlemen, today, basically all of her research that was kept online has been wiped out. All of her research about the parties involved in the ambush and certain proprietary things that she's developed was wiped out. And thankfully, however, and to those listening who are responsible for this, she's got copies, we've got copies, we just have to put them back together. But Susan, since we last spoke, I don't know if you've heard from any of our listeners. Hopefully you have. But my goodness, since we last spoke, I know you've been busy searching for further answers into the death of your son, into the murder of your son, and others that were murdered in the ambush in Afghanistan. But what have you found? And I know this is kind of a pretty big bite of a big question, but what have you found about what's going on with our military in terms of things that we may not, or we would be surprised to learn what's going on.
Well,
I don't know if that's a good place to start.
Well, I receive phone calls and emails and Facebook messages from various military personnel of high ranks and even the lower ranks. But when I start receiving it from higher echelon, I listen. Well, I listen to everybody. And one particular call I received about a week ago from somebody that told me directly that our men are being led to the slaughter, that, he was ordered to lead men into the minefield. And he wasn't going to do that in his consciousness. And so, they punish people that are of valor. And I guess today, in this administration and in the last, since 2009, when my son was killed, they'll put you in jail or set you up. There's many that are in jail in Leavenworth for crimes they never even committed. And so he was elaborating about certain things, and it really bothers this man. He's an officer, and he serves with distinction. And his mother had to fight for him because they were trying to pin him up against the wall, and because he wouldn't go along with the upper echelon, the architects. And the architects that I want to tell your listeners, for at least the last 30 years, mostly, since, from what I can tell with my research, the last 30 years is when it became very deeply embedded, the military, with the Illuminati families. And these guys have a plan. They go and they become officers and they serve and they do rotations throughout different arenas over in Europe and in the United States. And then they go and they serve in offices of State Department and Treasury Department and various other branches. And their whole families do this. And then they get involved with lobbying the war. They create the wars. They lobby the products that we're supposed to let our Second Amendment go by the wayside, why they harm the enemy. And they create cells with radical groups. So, being a Christian, I know that my son's death was not in vain because I believe that the Lord had a greater plan for him. I believe that Aaron was a warrior in the service and for mankind on the earth for a certain time, and now in spirit he's working a bigger plan over there during these times. And through my research, it's as though I can feel my son think about the things he wants to tell me, and I see this big plan. So I guess I can sum it up and say that my son's death wasn't just about Aaron, it was about a globalized agenda that this group of people, they've gotten over on a lot of Americans, and it woke me up too. And I knew about all this stuff for about 20 years. I had no idea that my son and his career had worked directly for these people. And I had met these people in person at social events.
When you're talking about these people, are you talking about high-ranking military officials, or are you talking about the CIA, or both?
Both.
All right.
Mm-hmm. A lot of the military. And you would look at a picture of them, and everything always says that they're so deeply involved in the peacekeeping mission. And they have the smile that seduces you. But I'm a linear thinker, as you are, and I look at abstracts. And the more that people say, the honorable so-and-so, that's the more dishonorable I find them to be. And because,
Exactly.
when you are one way, you don't have to keep reminding people, and, hey, look at me, look at me. You just are. That's just the way it is. You just go about it humbly. And, these people, they fill the minds of the young men that are going into war and in the service. They can bend their minds a certain way. And
yes.
But my son, who at one time planned on being an officer, and once he started seeing this agenda, he said, there's no way. I'm not going to be used. He knew that he would be used dishonorably, and he wasn't going to put himself in that position. But this is going on with so many, and so I have seen through my son's death, and because I see who was the contributing forces, as you had mentioned, in Aaron's death and the death of his fallen brothers, and so many people called me with different pieces of the puzzle, and I had to, first of all, do my deep grieving for at least 6 months or a year. And in the process, I was working on various things, but you just can't assimilate it until after the fog passes a little bit. And then you really start to see the picture. And if you pay attention to what's going on with the economy, and then you start reading about when our market fell apart in 2007 and 2008 and the LIBOR scandal and who's involved, and you start seeing these architects, these global bankers and attorneys, the very attorneys that write our president's new agenda. And they, just by tweaking a word here and there, can change a law. It's just amazing.
Exactly. Well, one thing I didn't tell you, Susan, I don't want to spring this on you, but at 6:45 this morning, I received a call from someone that I do get information from on pretty regularly, and it's no secret. I mean, at any rate, this is a military contact, and it made me think of your son and his notes. By the way, to those listening who want certain things that either Susan has or other people have, there are copies. Believe me, there are. If anything does happen to Susan, there will be so many copies of things all over this country that it would be a very futile thing to do to attempt to silence her or any one of us or any person involved in this. But the contact this morning said this, because I did share notes, your son's notes, with this military contact, with your permission, of course.
Oh, of course.
But he said this. He said, currently in Afghanistan, we are there. This is all about narcotics and the money, the narcotics that are being actually refined, and that's not the proper word, but you get the idea. The money there is being laundered through the Iraqi Export Bank, which is chaired by J.P. Morgan. And I was pointed to March 11th of this year, where in Afghanistan, the Russians seized 23 tons of heroin and morphine in a helicopter raid. 23 tons. So, Susan, my question to you, and I think, and your son, based on everything I've researched, and you know your son, obviously, he was not over there to protect the opiate trade or protect the oil flow. He was over there to serve his country. Do you think that this could possibly, do you think that his, and I'll say execution, and I apologize to you for using that word, but that's kind of what I feel happened. Do you think that maybe your son began to be connecting the dots on what we're doing over there, and accordingly he was taken out?
Well, don't apologize, and you're my friend, but that's the truth, and being a truth speaker is not always a comfortable place to be, as you know. Most definitely. First of all, my son was executed along with his fallen brothers, because when there's an ambush set up and there's 100 to 150 Taliban and your son is in the front line, how many times is he going to take a bullet? And when you find out from the mortuary that it was one time, then you know. And then you know when you have officers in a TOC room and men calling for help, and they're getting laughed at on the battlefield and asked 20 questions when bullets are flying. And then you have 2 choppers that my son called in for, and you have these things going on where these officers that I can tie into a particular general who my son worked for. And the officers were in and out of their TOC room where they monitored on huge satellites where the enemy was, where our good guys were, and by omission, and I could almost hear them now, well, I didn't see anything, did you? You know, people that are so dark and evil that don't have a conscience, that I don't believe will ever sit at the table of God and leave this earth and go to the places where people that live with valor. But these men laughed at my son and his brothers and hung them out to dry. And these men were all part of the drug raid or trade, whatever you want to call it. And I know that for sure because one in particular was promoted from a major to a lieutenant colonel. And within 6 months, he was running a huge operation. And this operation is involved with the United Nations, the Agriculture Department, heads of state. And so when you start seeing this, and I knew my son had found out about the drugs and whatnot because one of the other men that was shot that day, fatally shot, and died about a month later, was questioned about who we knew on the embedded training team, and I'll leave it at that because that's not really my story to tell. But when he was questioned about who he knew and what he knew, and these 3 officers described really what was going on behind the scenes, that confirmed it all. And before my son left to go over there 2 days before, we found out that he was a CIA asset and he was on a secret mission. And no, his other Marines didn't know that about him because one man doesn't know what the other one's doing when you're a CIA asset and you deal in intelligence. You're a secret from your Marines. And my son doing his administration duty as chief administrator was the perfect MLS to hide behind. And he found out a couple days before he left that he had told a friend of his, I know the real reason that we're over there, and I don't think I'm coming back. And they tried to get Aaron about 4 times while he was there. And just 2 days before they killed him in the ambush, on the 8th of September, the ambush was the project, the tea drinking mission that turned into the ambush. That was supposed to be set for the 7th of September. Here my son was a target on the 6th. They didn't kill him. They blew up the Afghan soldier next to he and the Navy corpsman. And then they were supposed to go the next day on that tea drinking mission, which that never happened. And the Border Patrol were in on it, the Afghan Border Patrol. They were in on it, like I said, with heads of our state, agriculture, United Nations, various groups that look like they're on peacekeeping missions.
Yeah.
And,
Ms. Price,
yes.
I just want to jump in here, and I have recently been reacquainted with a friend of mine who's went and served 2 tours in Afghanistan, and he's confirmed to me he was a private first class in the Army, but he's confirmed to me and witnessed the trafficking and taking of the drugs.
Yeah.
And the putting them, he's actually documented it. And, just not that we need that confirmation, but, I mean, everybody that I've talked to that's been over there, says, talks about these drug operations, and that's the real reason that we were over there in the first place.
Definitely. And if I may add, an ounce of American blood is worth how much in that radical thinking? You kill Christians, and that's, a part of them lives longer in their thinking, the satanic thinking. I don't know. That's what I've heard, too. It's just crazy. Yeah, but Americans need to wake up because it hits home. It's hitting home closer and closer and closer every week.
Yeah, it is. And to see American servicemen who are putting their lives on the line, who think they're putting their lives on the line for the safety of the nation and the people of the nation, are faced with a grim reality when they get over there that it's not about saving or protecting America.
Exactly.
And that's a sad fact now. And
people have to understand, too, when the bank failures of 2008, I mean, we have to put this in perspective. It's my belief, based on research, that, for example, the Iraqi Export Bank, which is tied in with J.P. Morgan, and also the Afghanistan drug trade, it's laundering money, but the loss to the Wall Street banks, the propping up of the Wall Street banks, the 6 major banks at least, is done through narco trafficking, and at the root of this too, and we're coming on a break here in about 3 minutes, but before we do, or after the break, I'd like to address the fact that your son was approached and recruited into Freemasonry, and how that fit into the to the equation here. If you feel comfortable talking about that,
sure,
because look, folks. This is a woman who lost her son, and in my eyes, he was a hero. He was a soldier for all of the right reasons, highly decorated. His morals were impeccable, and yet, and he had a problem with his superiors that were sending him out on suspicious runs at 3:00 in the morning, and had a problem with taking briefcases full of money to mullahs, although that was a method used that we commonly used. There were wrong reasons. I mean, some of it was being done for wrong reasons, and to a person of conscience like your son, Susan, that's got to be that's a real issue. And folks, this woman is a heroine by their search for justice for her son, hence the name Price for Justice. folks, it's a website in development, priceforjustice.com, but all of the background information is there about her son. We are up against the top of the hour break at the moment, so we're going to take that so we can have the full-time, unhindered by interruptions with you, Susan. So just hang on for about 2 minutes. Folks, you're listening to the fabulous Friday edition of the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. I'm Doug Hagmann. With me in studios, my co-host, Joe Hagmann. Together, we are the Hagmann and Hagmann Report, in search of the truth, the good, the bad, the ugly.
Thanks for joining us tonight. We'll be right back with Susan Price.
Hi folks, Doug Hagmann here. You might know me as the co-host from the Hagmann and Hagmann Report, or as a frequent guest on Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie. If you're like me, you're tired and confused over today's headlines. You just don't know where to turn for accurate, concise information about really what's going on, what's truly going on in today's society. If you don't know where to turn for accurate, well-researched, and properly vetted news, I've got a suggestion. In fact, it's a requirement. Bookmark Canada Free Press. That's CanadaFreePress.com on the Internet. It's just not for Canada. It's for news across the world. Judy McLeod, founding editor, has put together a vast array of talented writers like Kelly O'Connell, Daniel Greenfield, Dr. Aileta Johnson-Powell, a lot of guest columnists, very talented writers. Folks, that's Canada Free Press at CanadaFreePress.com. Now mobile friendly. Follow on Facebook, because without America, there is no free world.
Survival of the fittest. In any and all situations, survival is your number one priority. That requires being tough and thinking smart. And the folks at Freeze Dry Guy are going to help you do just that. They have a long-range patrol ration entrees, what they call the Brick Pack. When you're in survival mode, it is absolutely the best item for your survival pack or bug-out bag. You can go farther, faster, and carry more food with the LRP cold weather ration entrees. Not only do these long-lasting, durable entrees help sustain you or your family through the harshest environment or situation, they are by far the most delicious of their kind. No contest. With a variety of tasty entrees, you can't beat the LRP Brick Packs. Let Freeze Dry Guy help you in your survival situations. Go to freezedryguy.com. That's freezedryguy.com. Or call 866-404-3663. That's 866-404-FOOD.
You better wake up fast and listen to this, America. The Obama campaign has launched attack squads disguised as truth teams dedicated to intimidating and silencing all political dissent carried over the Internet that criticizes the Marxist Obama. Truth squads specifically focused on covering up Obama's endless trail of lies, corruption, and subversion, and using the Gestapo power of our own government to police and censor the Internet and shut down websites that dare to carry the real truth about Obama's Marxist coup. Remember the names of these Gestapo-style agencies at work right there in your neighborhood: KeepingHisWord.com, KeepingGOPHonest.com, and AttackWatch.com. KGB, SS, and Gestapo-style police-state gangster organizations at work to silence the important voices of patriot dissent, some of which have already been shut down by Obama's orders. Adolf Hitler would have been proud. We're the 21st century Tea Party patriots.
You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to hour number 2 of the Hagmann and Hagmann Report this Friday, April 12th, 2013. We are very happy to be joined by our special guest, Miss Susan Price. Go to priceforjustice.com. That is priceforjustice.com, where you can find all kinds of information about Mrs. Price, as it says on the top of the page, the Gold Star Mother seeking truth and justice. And in there is information on her son and the personnel that was with him, or Dakota Meyer, who received the Medal of Honor.
Right.
Yeah,
right. Yeah, and Susan, are you back with us? Are you there?
Hi, guys.
You know what?
There we go. All right. Welcome back for this segment of the show. Susan, before the break, I had mentioned that before your appearance tonight, I had mentioned that there seems to be an overlap here, or influence in the military by this. I don't even know how to describe it. Would you describe it like an unseen hand, this occultish type of activity within our military? Is there something driving, at least at the very highest of echelons of our military? Is there something going on here that's rather occultish that we should know about, or satanic or Luciferian or something like that?
Well, all of the above, Doug. Like I said, when Aaron died, it was a very dark, it still is without my son, for our family and his friends. But we know we can't bring him back, and we know that everything in life happens for a reason. And through the pain and the loss and looking for answers, because we looked around and we saw people were getting rewarded for killing and bad things, and everything that is reversed and upside down, and every sign of Satanism. And then when you go looking for answers and you find, wow, what's going on? And then you start seeing certain names over and over and over. And then when this administration appoints various individuals, and I thought, why does this particular woman, why is this president trying to put this particular woman in a spot where she doesn't fit? And here we had Benghazi and no answers from there. And then I went doing research and I see all these technology companies and tie-ins with the black boxes that are put on buses and the people that are involved with that. It's the same circle of people. And then you research them and their backgrounds, and you start seeing this tie, and reading about them and their religion and their everything about them. And then I see that, there's generations. So I go looking for that, and of course, it's a generational matrix. There is an agenda that started with their parents, and it worked its way down, and everybody has a job, and it's like they're not a full-functioning human being. They're subhumans. They're hybrids. And there is an occultish atmosphere, and there is satanic rituals, and just everything about it. I mean, it's very clear. And when you start hearing people telling you things and about sexual, events taking place and persecutions and people that won't behave a certain way, they're punished and put in jail or they're killed. One of the guys had a tattoo in my research, and I forget exactly what it was called. I had sent it to you. And it said something to the effect that a dead man tells no secret. And he had a picture of a Baphomet, the goat with the satanic. And I kept seeing a lot of that over there. My son's mission, dancing goat too. That's a sacrifice, I wish I would have known then.
Man, that's troubling when you start seeing satanic symbols like the goat head. We understand what that means, and of course, if you look at those familiar with the Illuminati understand the significance of the goat, and of course as you said, the Operation Dancing Goat 2 kind of makes you wonder what about Dancing Goat 1, what happened there. But one thing I was kind of surprised, it took me by surprise, is when we were talking about having your son being asked to join the Masons, and I had spoken to a couple of people about this. They said, well, it's a brotherhood thing where it's not out of the ordinary. How do you feel about that?
Well, from what I know, that Aaron always did everything since I've known my son for almost 31 years before his death, that he always, and nobody's perfect, we're all human, but I know that he never would take part in something if it wasn't the right thing to do, because, he could have been an officer and misused his security clearance and been caught up in the same group of folks that killed him, but he didn't do that. And so I think that for Aaron to have joined that, and we know that he was a CIA asset, I believe that he was put to go in to find out what he could and learn that way. But that's just me being his mother, because he always told me a couple of things throughout his history of his career. And I used to always think, why does my son have to drill me like every month? If it happens, that's what he would say. Not if I die. If it happens before my time, prematurely, I'm going to be put to rest, laid to rest next to my Marine grandfather, my dad. And then he would say, Mom, if I put something somewhere, it's there for a reason. Because, I could never ask him anything and talk about his work. If he brought a subject up, I would go on from there. But he did one day tell me, he told me when I lived here in Tampa that a couple of years prior to that, when he was in Germany, before he came to work at Central Command in Tampa, that he had joined the Masons, that he was a member of the Masons. And it just kind of came out when he was in Stuttgart and did the embassy duty and worked over in the Ivory Coast with a lot of the SEAL team guys on those missions. And I said, oh, yeah? And he said, yeah. I joined that. And it was just something that the way that he said it, that he needed me to know that, because he would never volunteer anything if it didn't mean anything. So I never found out what had happened, what went on there, or any of that. But from my research, and I see that there's a big tie-in with the Illuminati. And I don't know. Do the guys at the bottom know what the guys at the top are doing? I don't understand all this order, so I'm kind of going through that myself. But I can tell you that probably when my son had words with a particular general, put him in his place, I noticed a month or two later I started having internet problems and was threatened online. And there were various things going on with my email, certain pop-ups threatening about my son. And then another one was some information that was planted into my documents. And, I had set up one email where it was just straight email to this group I was working for, and like what I did for that day, just a report. And I had this feeling to check documents, and this was a brand new email, so I had no documents put in there yet. And then when I clicked on it, I thought, who put these documents in there? There were two of them. And one of them showed a Mideastern woman with the red dot in the middle of her forehead. And it was in Farsi, Middle Eastern language. I couldn't read it. But it was enough to give me an impression about somebody that was either watching this woman closely or surveillancing her. or some activity to that effect. And then the other one, the next document I looked at, it scared me to death. I just saw this man on a cross with a baphomet, the head of a goat over the guy's head. And it scared me so much, it was satanic, that I had contacted the internet company and said, get this matter off of my account. I don't know where it came from. I don't know anything about it. And at the time, my printer wasn't working. And so, that's needless to say, it was taken off, but it was horrifying, and it had the connotations of satanic matter. And I would say that was in 2007, early 2007, like January. So,
and folks, why this is important, not too long ago, there was a former U.S. Army specialist who came out stating that the U.S. Army is run by Freemasons. All the top brass with rank in the Army are Freemasons, whether they'll admit it or not. And he was talking about the Army, and he also had mentioned there's also some talk by others, about the Marines, of course, which Aaron was. But while in Afghanistan, this one specialist, this Army E4 specialist, noted that his staff sergeant was reading a book with a Masonic compass square logo on it and asked what it was about, and the staff sergeant answered, I'm trying to become a Freemason. It's something you'll learn about as your career progressives. And he added that it's a fraternity. In order to get your E8 Master Sergeant, you have to be part of it. And folks, go ahead.
I just want about the Freemasonry. I really do believe it's not just Freemasonry, but the whole government hierarchy is and has compartmentalization, even to the point where you have agents who focus solely on economic issues and other people and personnel who focus on, just specific areas of expertise, to where they do that on purpose so the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. That's how these globalists and Satanists work.
You're right. No, you're right. And I think that, and as I have grown to know Aaron posthumously from his notes and from things Susan has shared with me and with us, it seems like that Aaron was reaching a point of like I mentioned earlier, where one's morals and conscience and at his high level, and he was Susan. He was with I think the president assigned to the presidential detail at one point, wasn't he?
Yeah, well, he was early on in his career. He was the commandant of the Marine Corps' personal driver, and throughout his whole career, when he was over in Iraq or through the United States, he was always the designated driver for the very high echelon, and he was George Bush's personal attendee at the Republican National Convention. And that's the Marine that stays with the president the whole day, has lunch with him, guards him. I remember Aaron telling me, Mom, there were even Secret Service around me, and there were news people, and, there's agents and all kinds of crazy people trying to recruit you. And my son was a very handsome man, if I do say so myself, very charismatic, good-looking. And, he said, I felt like a rock star. I was being asked if I would do commercials and stuff, and here's the Secret Service saying, don't talk to the sergeant. And, I actually received a letter last summer, from somebody from the New York Times. He was a writer. I don't know if I sent you that, Doug, but he said that he only talked with Aaron for 15 minutes, and Aaron made such an impression on him that when he found out Dakota Meyer was the Medal of Honor and saw Aaron Kennefic's name, it hit him in the heart because he said that Aaron made such an impression on him being the guard for the president that in speaking with him, he couldn't imagine the pain that my family and the loss that we had experienced, and that he was honored to have that 15 minutes with him. And, and I also received an email from one of the flight attendants that flew with them over to Afghanistan, and she said that Aaron made an impression on her immediately because the first thing he said is, please make sure all my men are taken care of, whether they have coffee, tea, drinks, blankets, pillows. He was like their father, looking out for everybody. And we talk to this day, this lady. She works with Sinise on certain projects, and she flies back and forth and works with a lot, a special lady, and she works with a lot of our men coming and going to war and coming back. And I thought, geez, I've met hundreds of people just through Aaron, and the ones I didn't meet in person, I met over the internet and Facebook and get phone calls. And, Mother's Day, my daughters are the first ones to call me, but my whole day is filled up with phone calls, text messages. I'll tell you what, there is a brotherhood, not even just the Marines, but they have a special bond, but the special op guys, and just he knew so many people from every arena of service, and there are a lot of good people that are in the service, but we do, Doug, have a section of our government. Everything is sectioned into sections where we don't know who the good people and the bad people are. There's a book I got called Top Secret America. I don't know if you've read it. By Dana.
I have not, no.
And William Arkin. Oh, my goodness.
The book is called Top Secret America?
Oh,
okay.
Yes. By Dana Priest, Priest, and William M. Arkin, Arkin. This book is amazing. It talks about it breaks everybody down and everything down so you can understand the compartments.
Wow.
And, Department of Homeland Security started after 9/11, and it wasn't even approved through Congress. And now they have the most power over anybody. I mean, how does this happen?
Well, and we had talked about this last time.
Yeah, it happens by what they have done with your son and many other people, removing either by death or out of the area where they can be effective the people who are good. And over time, we see what happens. And we talked. You were mentioning earlier about him going with President Bush, and I think last time you were on, we might have mentioned this, but Pat Tillman, it was an NFL player, who decided to go serve his country instead of playing football for millions of dollars a year. And when he started writing letters home about how the war was all about a drug trade instead of fighting an enemy that was endangering America, he was also executed. And he was a famous, well-known man.
Right.
They don't care who you are, how high your status is.
They terminate the white knights, whether they throw you into jail or they kill you.
I just want to say thank you to Mary Jane, one of our listeners, Susan. She sent an email to us, and listeners who are listening to this on archive or live, you can read all about the drug trade in Afghanistan. There's another book called Seeds of Terror. That's Seeds of Terror by Gretchen Peters. It's an excellent book, and it explains what's going on. Certainly it's available via Amazon. So that's something that we will definitely put on our wish list or order list to grab. But Susan, I've got to tell you that there are listeners out there. I'm getting emails right now saying there are people that want to certainly want to pray for you, pray with you.
Yeah.
Because of this, and certainly what we need to do, I believe, in addition to the prayers, is we need to expose the corruption.
Exactly.
And you're doing this.
Yeah.
If folks, if I could just summarize what I believe happened to Aaron, Susan's son, is through his career as an asset for the CIA, and as he went up the ladder, I believe that he had seen things and been involved in things that ultimately, at some point in your life, or as an officer, you wonder. You simply ask the question: is what I'm doing legal, or am I doing this for the country or for some other type of agenda? And I truly believe that he realized that what was going on was against the objectives of the American people. The American people would not stand for what he was doing, and
not only that,
the fate.
Against the moral this was an agenda that was serving the purpose of a criminal organization, mafia-type organization, and that's it. And look at all the lives that have been lost. Not even just American troops, but all the civilians that have been killed in Afghanistan and Iraq.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, Doug, there's another entity that you didn't mention, and that's the private military that exists that most of people don't understand anything about it. And that also ties into Benghazi, because Hillary Clinton hired this particular group back in 2010. And they were millionaires in Iraq, and they became billionaires through working for the Saudis. And
what military group is this? Can we say?
It's the privatized former Blackwater.
Okay, so it would be. What is it now? I believe XE or is it Hell?
I don't know. They've changed their name so many times.
Yeah, it's I can't remember off the top of my head. Yeah, they've changed it a few times since Blackwater, but it is still an operational. Not only that, there are several other and many more contractors now than there were when Blackwater was first started.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Over 800, you said?
Yeah, there's over 800. Yeah. Well, over 800 mercenaries in this particular group. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I have a friend who has approached him and his brother, the same gentleman that talked to me about recently got reacquainted with. He told me that him and his 4 brothers who have all served were approached and wondering if they wanted to be hired private contractors, if they could put together a group.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all he said.
They do these things called stability operations, and it's the stability operations that maneuver the arms and the drugs. And they're tied in with the United Nations and the Agricultural Department and all the other groups.
The Department of Defense. Yeah.
Yeah, all of them.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
It's something I've been researching now, and is a series of documents that really spell out the agenda of what they want to do to the American people, and they're going to use these groups. They're going to use the contractors instead of military personnel. They're going to use foreign troops.
These guys are promised 6-figure salaries when they get out of there, because, in fact, the guy that was the third in line the day my son was killed was a major, and all of a sudden the commander and the lieutenant weren't in charge, and this third guy, the major, becomes in charge of my son of the ambush that day, who kept walking in and out of the TOC, the Tactical Operation Command, and just, well, I don't see nothing, I don't know nothing, And he and the other officer that were there, asking, the other officer in charge under him was manning the computer systems and watching the satellites, and as the calls were coming in of my son and everybody for distress, calling for help, and Captain Swenson calling and saying, you better get some artillery and air support and some smoke. They were getting fed 20 questions. Who's on your roster? Why bullets were flying, fighting for 2 hours before my son's death, and then even after, and being told after my son was taken down that Dakota couldn't go in there. It's like we weren't entitled to my son and the fallen heroes, their bodies, to bring them back home. And here these men my son thought, we're going to get out of here. He was telling the Afghan soldiers, 12 of them, we're going to get out of here. They're going to drop some smoke, and, the pilots are going to come. My son was honor grad at Army Jump School. He was in charge of designing a database system for routing people, places, and things. The Army uses this database that my son helped to create and develop. And
yeah, ladies and gentlemen, this is important because I just learned this today or recently about this database that your son was involved in developing. And now things are starting to come together a little bit clearer.
Right.
Susan, what kind of data? It was a logistics database, but he was working on this. Let's get into this a little bit because it has relevance to what's going on today. And folks, before Benghazi, there was Ganjgal, and this was Benghazi on a smaller, on a larger scale, but because it didn't involve an ambassador, of course, it's not considered the same as Benghazi, but nonetheless, it's a template of Benghazi. But let's talk about this database. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Well, when, Aaron had been a Marine for over 12 years, and he went in 97, and he died in 2009. And when he was over in Germany from 2001 to June 2004, he was Special Ops Recon, and he worked over at the embassy there. And he was involved, these embassy guys, whether you're a cook or you're working at a desk, you're a warrior first and foremost. And, you have a bunch of skills. And one of Aaron's skills was he was, one of his he had a couple of MOSs, and one of them was for airborne operations. He would work with the SEAL teams and that, strategizing and making sure that coordinates and all that were put together. But my son was so detailed, even as a child, he was very well detailed, that he had implemented single-handedly a tracking system for all personnel, operations, and equipment and everything, and had worked with the airborne people. I'm looking for the name of that here. And when he was transferred over to Central Command, and he had worked in two very, very, we're talking like right under Condoleezza Rice, okay, that high up with generals. We're talking Petraeus's bosses, General Petraeus's boss, and the people that were at one time running the NSA and people like that. That's how close Aaron was to the top. And he was creating and developing a database that tracked everything from SOCER, SOCEU, airborne operations, and numerous other annual training, and to track supplies and people. And I actually emailed you this. It gives a breakdown, and it shows the theater of operations, the contractors, everything. So, the Army uses this today. And when an Army does an operation and sets up, like Dancing Goat 2, this is set up 8 and 9 months in advance. So it's not just like, oh, let's send this group of guys out here. Everything's planned because they have to put together a budget. Money's always involved, right down to the last penny. Whether they use that money for that operation, they're going to soak our government an exorbitant amount of money, but they have to turn in a plan to the government, the Pentagon, for warfare and everything involved with it. So I believe that my son had seen maybe a little more than what he was supposed to. And while working on this, and even though this took place a couple of years before his death, he was working at a very high capacity of classified information. And
that's, wow.
Just found that out. Yeah.
And there's just so much information. What's, Susan, and I'm going to tell you, you are a real trooper. You've been, I know that you get about 2-3 hours of sleep at night. I mean, it's just incredible the time you put in researching and the dedication you have, not only for justice for your son, but justice for everyone serving in the military. And I want to thank you for that because, unfortunately, wars at times have to be fought, but they certainly don't have to be fought because of or at the whims of central banks, bankers, and certainly not for a drug trade or an energy policy.
Or furthering any agenda, no.
Right. Exactly.
Well,
but
I had read...
Well, go.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No.
I was just going to say I had read something really horrible that a remark that was that Henry Kissinger had made, and I'll find it and I'll send it to you, where he says that our men in uniform are nothing but cannon fodder.
Yep. Yes.
And I read that.
There was a quote, military men are nothing but dumb, stupid animals to be used as pawns for foreign policy, something along those lines, yeah.
Yeah. And that's in some Illuminati works. Now, the Bilderberg meeting is coming up here soon, and where they have trilateral commission and the foreign relations, the Council of Foreign Relations. Well, all the generals are members of the Council of Foreign Relations. So,
absolutely.
again, well, there's good generals and bad guys. Some are set up.
Yeah.
And on purpose.
There's a clip of Hillary Clinton saying that she was happy the Council on Foreign Relations had set up an office so close to her office in D.C. so she wouldn't have to travel so far to get orders as to what she should be doing, basically stating,
wow,
get where she gets her marching orders. And these groups are not just think tanks, they are policymakers.
Well, and then
people think
you wonder why New York has Bloomberg and has Cuomo, and they're a target for losing their gun rights because you have the United Nations and people like this. These atrocities, these treasonous subhumans. Forgive me, but I'm I'm over it already. I'm a lady, but boy, oh boy, if people can't see through that, it's just unbelievable.
No, you're exactly right.
I read that Hillary Clinton had brought President Obama in 2008 to the Bilderberg Group meeting. I forget where that one was held in 2008.
Chantilly, Virginia.
Oh, was yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
It was in Virginia.
And John Podesta, right, and John Podesta was the man who spoke. They were attempting to decide, and correct me if I'm wrong, Susan, based on your understanding, but they were attempting to decide at that time who was going to be the Democratic nominee for the front person for the nominee for president. And
right.
Podesta spoke up for John Podesta spoke up for Obama, and subsequently he was selected as the nominee based on that meeting.
That's how it works. His agenda is to break us financially, spiritually, physically, mentally, emotionally, economically, every which way you can. And one of my son's friends, this young girl, well, young, she's 30-something. I was married and had a family at 33 years old. But, this girl is so liberal. And when I see her sometimes on Facebook, and she'll make a comment, and then I'll jump in once in a while when I really know it's not true. She never comes back to debate me about it. She just kind of cowers down, and I say, look, you don't all have to be a conservative like I am or my son was, or believe in the religion I believe in, which is just being a Christian and being spiritual, and say what you mean what you say, and do the right thing and live by the right deed to help others and live by conviction. But don't get suckered into people that walk around and say, well, they're all our kids, and the things that you learn in a liberal college, and then you take that and you're going to tell us that yes means no, and bad means good, and in means out, and change our whole world and write our whole vocabulary. It irks me. And it irks me when I saw the news and how sad it was to see these people in London for Margaret Thatcher's funeral. These kids, what do they know about Margaret Thatcher? They were like 20, they're 21 years old, 18 and 21. They weren't even born yet, so they were never taught this stuff. These things, these facts are being kept. They're being held by omission. This is the same. Omission is the tool, a very powerful tool that these people are using. Just like in my son's death. Well, if we didn't see it, it didn't happen. Or the president, he just omits to tell you this, and then he gets away with things. And, we need to take our America back and fight, because I know one thing. I don't want to go through another 3.5 years of this. I'm exhausted at the end of the week.
No, it's so true, Susan. I'll tell you. And before we cut you loose, because I got to tell you, you've got the energy of an Energizer rabbit, but you could outrun me anytime. You in your quest for the truth about what happened to Aaron, and in your quest for who is running things and who is responsible for his death and why, and the mechanisms behind the military at present, you've been subjected to some pretty severe harassment by persons unknown. Give us just a brief rundown of what you've experienced as you have asked questions and searched and wanted answers. What's happened to you?
Well, I've been followed many times, stalked. My bank card, I've had crazy activity going on with my banking card, my debit card, which I don't bother using anymore. My phone had a crazy app put on it, as well as another Gold Star family member. At the same time, they live in another state, so theirs was affected at the same time, but 2 hours difference in time. And when I came back here to Tampa and told them, I couldn't open my phone, I couldn't use it, I had to go to Walmart and get another phone to use while I was out of town, just so I would have something for emergencies. These people that don't think we know what's going on, to try to keep me from calling out in case I had to call 911 or whatever. They did that. I've had Black Hawk helicopters a couple of times over the neighborhood in which I live and the house.
And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, if you think that Susan Price talking about black helicopters, if you think that that's some conspiracy nonsense, as who Rachel Maddow and Matthews might think, there are witnesses, multiple witnesses, because those aren't quiet. They're not quiet.
This was at noon time. This was in broad daylight at noon. And then again at 11 o'clock at night a few weeks ago. And then there were drones over a friend's house that lived in a beautiful gated community. I was
if I'm not mistaken, that's where you were at. I mean, you had stayed there for a while.
Yeah.
Is that right? Okay, so it was not just a friend. It just went over a friend's house. You were there, and then you had departed, of course, from there, and then the drone was spotted there over that.
And then
home.
I have another Marine mom that who's a good friend of mine, and I call her my assistant because once we take the bull by the horns and we take our America back, I plan on, cleaning up some garbage. So she will be my assistant. But she helps me with a lot of my research. And aside from yesterday, from my whole email site being totally wiped out, and what was, I had a ton of hours and hours and a year's worth of research. But we have that. We have copies of that, but still I lost the email. And then I also was followed in a car and gestures made, and, I've had all kinds of crazy stuff going on. Phone calls between certain people blocked. Mail, actually, my mail was blocked as well. Whatever things and I laugh and I just say, you're not going to get away with this. I have another backup. I always have backup after backup, too. It doesn't even bother me anymore. It's just par for the course, because I know that whenever you're getting close to being where you should be and God has your back, that's where the devil tries to attack you. And so I just think...
Yeah. That's what we always say. When we're over a target, we know we're close over a target when we start taking the incoming, and it's kind of bittersweet. But folks, understand this. Okay, this is real life. This is real world. This is not some crazy person talking crazy nonsense. This is what really goes on in today's America. And I got to tell you, originally I was skeptical, but not of you, but just skeptical in general. And then as I got into this investigation, folks, look, and we've got major difficulties, major problems here at the highest levels. And Susan Price is, let me tell you, she's on a mission. And she's going to accomplish that mission with God's help. And, of course, her website is Price for Justice. But Joe, you were going to do something here, I think. Are we ready for this? Or
somebody mentioned that they wanted to pray for you on air, Miss Price, and I'm trying to get to see if they still would like to do that.
Oh, that's so sweet. I appreciate that.
Well, Susan, we're fighting a battle not only on the practical terrestrial level, but also on the spiritual plane. We're fighting this battle, and we all need that divine guidance. And Joe and I mean, this our radio show. We're firmly rooted in the divine, in God's, relying on God's help. I mean, heck, we don't even know what we're. We had I shouldn't say we don't know what we're doing here, but we had no plans to be doing what we were doing. We were led here to do this, and
I know,
of course, you witnessed it firsthand. I mean, you were part of this whole thing.
I'm here now on your trail, and I didn't know I'd spend 3 out of 3.5 years investigating and looking for the truth. But I'm a person that if you tell me no, I'm going to tell you, I will. I don't take no. And when there's something bad, I'm going to go over you, through you, inside you. And, I will, and by the grace of God, I will get there. And everyone, and my whole family's made the same way. We've been tried and tested, and that makes us more fired up. So you're just helping me when you do these things to me. You're just propelling me more.
That's great.
Ms. Price, all right. We are joined by Warrior Shepherd in chat, also known as Chad. I think that's correct.
Hi, Miss
Chad,
Price.
You there?
Hi,
yes,
thank you.
I'm here. I see your I see your son's name there, and it just struck a chord with me. And as a father myself, when I see his name providentially named Warrior Angel in Rod of Truth, and you carrying out the mission that our Father has in plan for you, though it's hard and difficult, we have power with him if we would just use it. And we can come before him as a delegation. And it always helps me if I want to picture this in my mind. So if we would just together picture ourselves in God's throne room, before him, his courtroom, and the Hagmann and Hagmann team of people, brothers and sisters, we're filling that courtroom right now, and we're pushing our way to the front because he says we can. And we lift you up. We lift your family up, those who are fighting with you. And we come before our Father, and we ask that he hear us on behalf of your son and on behalf of you, that he would move supernaturally and by his might and his sovereign power to work on your behalf, to bless you, to protect you, to keep you, and to give you strength. We all pray this together as a delegation, corporately, in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much. That was so
Amen.
kind of you. That means the world to
I'll
me.
tell you.
And to my family.
We're in this together. We're in this together.
You know, we are.
If we don't fight for one another, there's no purpose for life. It is our purpose. We were not meant to be alone. And we have to do these things for one another. We have to. For those who are called, there's no other purpose. And I just cannot wait to see the joy that comes when this darkness clears.
Oh my gosh, I can't. Doug, when I first met you, I felt this calm and peace in my family. We just all felt like we knew you forever.
And I felt the same way. And I got to tell you, you've got just a wonderful family. It made me think of the typical Norman Rockwell.
It is too. I'm telling you, we are so lucky.
Yeah, Doug has taken on a father figure for not just Joe, but for many of us, who are listening to him. It's part of the appeal that God has put in him for us, that he is down to earth. He doesn't put on airs or shows. He is what he is when you see him and when you hear him. And that's the kind of person that God calls. He doesn't call the qualified. He qualifies the called. And we all just we all just individually, if we would just work together and do what he's called us to do, there's so much that could be done. And we are with you, and we will do everything we can. And I know I can speak for those in the chat. I'm in the chat from time to time. The conference, nearly 400 people, and I've never seen it so quiet as it has been tonight, because everybody is just so focused on what you have to say. Our passion, our hearts are just so with you, and the Holy Spirit is just urging and begging us to pay attention to what you have to say. We love you, and I'll let you go.
I love you guys, and I really believe that Aaron and God are, I know the Lord is working this, but I believe that my son, even though he's in spirit, I'm finding stuff that I didn't find last year, and there's more stuff that's coming. And there's times when I get to the computer, I'm like, what am I going to research? And then all of a sudden I hear, put this and this name together, put this company and this together, or I'll find stuff, and then I'm blown away. And you know yourself, Doug, just some of the things that you've seen, the evidence that all points to things that are happening now that Aaron has.
Absolutely.
With Department of Homeland Security and the ICE and the Border Patrol and, among other things.
It's all connected. Go ahead, Chad.
I have to tell you that he still has friends that work at Central Command, and from what I hear, Central Command's falling apart by the day. Things are missing out of the computer, records, and information on certain people is disappearing. And the bad guy, one of the most vicious perpetrators of my son's death, happens to work for one of these big, huge companies that is tied in with communications and whatnot. We all got to start thinking of how we're going to communicate with one another if we miss the cutoff where they're going to take down our media. And I pray that doesn't happen. And I think that we're going to have divine intervention, but to have a backup plan.
We're working on that.
Susan, you're right. I wouldn't mind it so much if the media got cut off, but the communications part we definitely need for each other.
Right.
Chad, I'm going to
real quick.
let you go or push back on hold. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I know we're going up to commercial, so I'll just say this real quick and get off. That our Father has promised us there is nothing hidden that will not be exposed, and we know that the full truth of this will get its final hearing in the court that matters. And with that, I'll just let you go.
Thank you so much, my friend. I appreciate it.
Yeah, Chad, God bless you, and thank you for your prayers tonight. And Miss Price, it's always such a great pleasure to talk with you and to
and you guys too.
Hear
we got
stories.
a lot of work to do. So I'm going to continue my research and, spill it all out to you. I know I've probably sent you thousands and thousands of evidence and articles, but...
well, I've got, folks, I got to tell you this. I've gone through what do you call those hard drives that are portable hard drives that are filled with your research, Susan. Mm-hmm. And I've got to say this, that I've never seen the depth of research and the dot connecting that by a layperson that you've done, and it's just incredible because what happened with the death of your son and surrounding the death, and even the years before leading up to it. Mm-hmm. It's like back then was a window into what's taking place today, and folks, you really need to understand that.
Yeah,
and it's all connected.
And you know, and that if had I not known the names of these, I call them the architects of design, politically as well as military, because these military generals and their families are involved. And they're generational. And, you know, who was it back after World War II, and the presidents were worried about the military complex organizations growing in power. And that's what you have, these warmongers that they're atheists, and they don't believe in God, and they don't believe in anything other than money. And, you know, they live by
money
a different...
and power. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and they live by a different code of moral compass as well as DNA code. So it's, you know,
DNA
we're the
code.
foreigners. Yeah, the DNA. And I sent you something on that, too, because there's a list of scientists that had been killed off and that were working with DNA and all kinds of cures and antibodies. And yeah, well, you probably know all about that, but I just...
Well, that's on Steve Coyle's website, the Dead Scientist. And Steve is a constant or a frequent guest on our program and a good friend of ours. So, in fact, but you said key words here, the DNA code, folks. You don't understand how important that one sentence is.
It's so intricate, yes. You know, like you said, Doug, the DNA is major, and, you know, people, men and women of valor have something encoded. We have the God gene in us. With our Lord lives so deeply in our DNA that we do the right things, we live the right way, and these people are trying to kill off that gene through the Monsanto, through the chemtrails, through our water, every which way they can. They're trying to keep us from having children and our children from having children. They're destroying our legacy. That's another reason we're at war after war, to destroy our legacy. You know, it's one thing to fight for your freedom in your country, and then you find out, you know, you're over there to be a pawn and to be used to slaughter American blood on foreign lands so they can one-up us in the religion aspect of whatever their crazy beliefs are. You know, but when you have treasonous people within our government that get away with murder and crimes and you know, I don't know how we're going to do this, but I'll tell you what, I believe in protecting myself, and I'm a lady, boy, but anybody comes near me, boy, I'm not going down, let's put it that way, okay?
God bless you, Susan.
I'll leave it at that.
I wouldn't mess with you.
No, and I would caution anyone who wants to get between Susan and the truth to watch out. Susan, thank you so very much for spending your time tonight. That's Susan Price, priceforjustice.com.
Thank you, gentlemen.
What a wonderful lady. Thank you, Susan.
Love
and
you guys.
Get some rest.
We
love you as well. And our prayers are with you and with Aaron. Absolutely, we'll stay in touch.
You're not going to get rid of me. You know, we need to awaken every week these people that have friends and family. You know, we have to have them bring their friends on a Friday night and have an internet radio party and get the chips and dip out. Buy the organic though. And listen to Doug and Joe. And I'll pop in. I'll come in and visit you guys. So
all right, Susan. God bless you. Thank you so much.
You too.
so much. Thank you. You take care. Folks, that was Susan Price. Susan Price is the Gold Star mother of Aaron, or son Aaron. Go ahead.
Priceforjustice.com. Priceforjustice.com. And to go there, get all the information on what happened to her son, and you can find out much more information about other military families and situations. And the site is a work in progress, but there's already lots of information there, and there will be a lot more up in the coming days, weeks, and months. You can guarantee it. Folks, you're listening to the Hagmann and Hagmann Report this Friday, April 12th, 2013. We're coming back. 661-244-9839 is the phone number. Open lines for the third hour, so give us a call.
Survival of the fittest. In any and all situations, survival is your number one priority. That requires being tough and thinking smart. And the folks at Freeze Dry Guy are going to help you do just that. They have the long-range patrol ration entrees, what they call the Brick Pack. When you're in survival mode, it is absolutely the best item for your survival pack or bug-out bag. You can go farther, faster, and carry more food with the LRP cold weather ration entrees. Not only do these long-lasting, durable entrees help sustain you or your family through the harshest environment or situation, they are by far the most delicious of their kind. No contest. With a variety of tasty entrees, you can't beat the LRP Brick Packs. Let Freeze Dry Guy help you in your survival situations. Go to freezedryguy.com. That's freezedryguy.com. Or call 866-404-3663. That's 866-404-FOOD.
Last week, a very disturbing provision was slipped into the latest Senate budget bill. This small and conspicuous provision was coined the Monsanto Protection Act. Essentially, it deregulated genetically modified foods even more, further solidifying Monsanto's power over the food supply and their total immunity from prosecution. But the most disturbing part is that no one had a clue as to who actually wrote the provision, until now. Apparently, Senator Roy Blunt is a proud lackey for big ag business. You see, he just boasted to Politico that he was the one who wrote this additional piece of legislation. And one just has to look at he and his family's incestual relationship with Monsanto to understand why. Public records show Monsanto's been backing Mr. Blunt's congressional career since 2008. He's taken in well over $100,000 in campaign contributions from the corporation over the last 5 years. But that's not all. During his 2010 Senate run alone, he took in over $243,000 from ag business across the board. Yep, this guy might be the most GMO-friendly politician on the Hill, but this dirty political scheming is nothing new for Mr. Blunt. Back in 2002, while serving in the House, he tried to sneak in a provision into a Homeland Security bill in the same way he did with the Monsanto Protection Act, only then it was a measure that would benefit the tobacco giant Philip Morris. So what's Blunt's interest with big tobacco? Well, his wife, Abigail Blunt, was a lobbyist for Philip Morris at the time. And it seems like his wife is still strong-arming the senator because she's since moved on to head the government relations for Kraft Foods, one of the biggest processed food corporations in the country. You know, the same Kraft Foods that shelled out $2 million against Prop 37's GMO labeling effort in California. But wait, there's more. This man's entire family is one living conflict of interest. Blunt's son, a lobbyist for the auto industry, was honored by Monsanto for his excellence in leadership while he served as governor of Missouri, the state where Monsanto conveniently has its headquarters. Not only is Roy Blunt the worst example of Washington's revolving door, he's also a poor excuse for representative. He doesn't represent the people. He represents his pocketbook and nothing more. And that's why you, Roy Blunt, are my villain of the day. Which brings me to today's hero, a woman named Diana Reeves, the founder of GMO Free USA. She formed the organization.
You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth. You can't handle the truth. What is intelligence? What is intelligence?
And welcome back, folks, to a fabulous Friday edition of the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. It is the 12th day of April 2013. With me is Joe Hagmann. I'm Doug Hagmann. Together we are the Hagmann and Hagmann Report. And if you stay up late enough, you can catch my cameo appearance on Coast to Coast tonight, a 2-minute update on the North Korean situation. That about 1:05 Eastern time, and then on Sunday, I'm scheduled to be on InfoWars. I believe that will be for about an hour. And just let me double check this. That should be, actually, I'm looking at this, I'll be on 6 to 7 Eastern time on Sunday. So
yeah, and the way this, I hope this will play out the way it looks like it will play out. This is we can use the analogy, the blood in the water. This is a weakness that will be exposed due to their incompetence and sloppiness in carrying out this attempted, it's illegal, fraud, they violated privacy, medical laws. They confiscated a man's firearms, all based on lies, and a setup to be the beta test for the rest of the country or the state, however they were going to do it. It failed, and now they're going to be held accountable.
Well, we'll see how accountable. Yeah, we do know that. Knowing the attorney from Buffalo, I've got to say that this attorney is not. This law firm is not going to take this lightly, and of course they're going after this. And of course, the subject matter we're talking about is the plight of an Erie County, New York man who won the anti-Fourth and Second Amendment lottery at the hands of the New York State Police, Department of Homeland Security, the Obama-Biden team, and, of course, Janet Napolitano. More on that as the weekend unfolds. It's going to be a working weekend for both Joe and I, so please say a prayer for us as we attempt to get down to the nitty-gritty on this. Before the break...
I still have this on my top of my head.
Go ahead.
We were reading from an internet forum earlier. Your Department of Homeland Security insider article made a prediction about metals.
Yeah, and let me just real quick hit this because I think this is important, folks. If you recall earlier, in fact, this would have been last year, the last update earlier in the year. I'm talking in snow neck deep in northwest Pennsylvania, but DHS insider said things would begin to break down around the springtime. The next economic shock is coming or was coming. He didn't know exactly when, but a source told him that precious metals, would be taken down in advance of that event. In other words, the price, there'd be a hit on the price of precious metals. And my question to him was, how soon do you see this taking place? And my DHR said, well, things are already in motion. If you're looking for a date, I cannot tell you. Remember, the objectives are the same, but plans, well, they adapt. They exploit. Watch how this entire thing plays out. This is the run-up to the next economic event. And once again, I can't give you a date, but I can tell you to watch things this spring. Start with the inauguration. Go from there. Watch the metals. When they dip, it will be a good indication that things are about to happen.
Silver right now at $25.85 from yesterday, $27.60-some cents, about a $2 drop in a day in silver.
Gold, yes.
Gold is at $14.78. It was at $15.45, I think, yesterday or the day before. And you have the ticker
psychological barrier of 1,500. That's psychological
on our website. Yeah, on our website we have a gold line that has the price of gold, silver, palladium, and platinum on the right-hand side underneath, where you can click to subscribe via iTunes or the RSS feed to this show. And I see it all the time. And gold was down 5% today. Silver was around 4% down. And it's not possible with the economic situation we're in right now. It is absolutely mathematically impossible for these prices to be going down as inflation is rising, unless there is a magician behind the curtain manipulating things by pulling strings it shouldn't be pulling.
Well, this is a result, too. Now, I just want to say this. There are some economic forecasters who are saying to expect gold to reach highs of perhaps as high as $7,000 an ounce, and gold to be anywhere between $150 to $200 to $250 an ounce. Jim Willey, I believe, is one of them, one of these economic forecasters. But one thing for certain is that the COMEX is the price or the value of gold is in silver, precious metals are being held down artificially, and obviously the Dow is raised. That's just high volume, high frequency trading that we're seeing there. This is going to collapse. The COMEX being a criminal syndicate, basically. I got to tell you, I don't see a good future there, but I do see the writing on the wall. And I think that as things play out, like you said, Joe, and I'm glad you reminded me about that because it's important.
They're trying to get people to dump their physical silver and gold, thinking that it's not going to ever go back up, and they get out while you still can, while it's still there. It could even, the metal prices could be cut in half again, and I would not recommend anybody do anything, especially sell any metals you have.
Except buy.
Last year, silver was at $50 an ounce, about maybe 2 years ago.
Right.
But they can't hold this down forever, just like they can't stop the economic crisis from coming, just like they can never pay the debt back. They can't keep the prices down forever.
And I have to say this. I am not going to advertise the forum that this was placed. I just don't. I prefer not to. But I will say this, that I believe that this is validation of the accuracy of the information that we provide. Folks, listeners to this program have heard basically this in real time at the time it happened. So we are mentally and even hopefully spiritually prepared for what's coming, and I really believe what we're seeing right now. And folks, understand this. This is a process, like we were saying yesterday. This is a process. The world is not going to end tomorrow. It may, of course, but who knows? But what we're seeing under what we're seeing take place is a process, and this process has to play out. I want to clarify one thing. I did receive an email today, and I know this is kind of somewhat related to this. I had mentioned about the King James Version of the Bible and how the Illuminati uses that as a blueprint. Somebody had sent me an email saying, please don't say that anymore because it was rather offensive. This person took it as being an offensive statement. In no way, shape, or form, and folks, you know me and my heart know, that's the last thing I wanted to make. So to clarify that, what I should have said and been more clear about is the powers, the satanic powers that exist today are using the King James Version of the Bible, to advance their perverse means. In other words, they're counterfeiting the Word of God. It would be like us having a legitimate silver or gold coin and then having a counterfeit gold coin. They look the same. Okay, I mean, through the untrained eye, like mine, to me, I couldn't tell the difference. But that's the intent. I'm saying that they're falling.
Yeah, and I want to say this, about the gold. What was it? Maybe a month ago, I said I don't own any gold, and I can't say that anymore. We actually had a listener send my dad one and me one. A small little 1/10 of an ounce of a gold coin, and I couldn't believe somebody sent this to us. And I
got to tell you, before I saw that coin, I had never seen a gold coin before.
No, but I immediately thought, I can't say I don't have gold anymore. But no, it was really nice. They sent us a piece of 1/10 of an ounce of gold and a silver bar. Like a bar of silver, one
small,
bar,
like 1 ounce.
Yeah,
and it was such along with just a great note too. And I want to thank that person.
Yeah, and Rick Wiles always asks for medals if possible, and I'm sure that's for the emergency scenario if you need to when things go bad. But we don't.
We're still on the let's keep us on the air scenario. Okay. I mean, that's where we're at.
Yeah. No, but I just thought it was funny because if anybody ever asked me, do you have gold? I couldn't say no, but I guess a 1/10 of an ounce is better than nothing. But, it's not there for to put any hopes of. And I have bought silver, too, but I don't hold the hope that will save me from anything. It's there in case it could be helpful. And that's it.
I think in our lives, and let's be realistic here, as the days go on, boy, I'm hearing a tremendous echo. I don't know if you're hearing it, but
something changed with the sound.
Okay, but as the days go on, as we get closer to the end of things as they are today, as the end of the situation that we know it, the world that we know it today, I see people having a more difficult time making ends meet, and I see a time period where it's going to be more difficult to take your paycheck and to get groceries. And that's why we're big advocates of if you can, if you're in the position, stock up now. And for some reason, I'm really stuck on peanut butter, okay, because I watched it at the grocery store. Almost double in price. And so if you're in a position to buy that extra can or jar of peanut butter or the extra can of soup or whatever it is, do it now, because down the road things are going to be more and more expensive. Well, let me rephrase that. The dollar is going to buy less and the portions are going to be less. We had a caller call in. It was Stan Dale talking about Holly. I'm sorry, it wasn't a caller. We're seeing now, and I should bring this up, where at stores the portions, you might want to double check the portions you're getting. I've been hearing some really strange things coming from places in different areas of the country. You go into a butcher shop and ask for a pound of, bologna, and they might short you a little bit, and it's difficult to do with the automatic scales, but it can be done. But the fact of the matter is, it's over time. Think of how much they're saving, and think of how much you're losing. But folks, look, spiritual preparation first. Then, of course, the practical preparations, because we don't know what's going to happen. And even if you don't believe you're going to be around to use them, you think of others who can and have that spirit of charity in your heart. And I really believe that's important to have. And then we also have to think, too, of our children and their welfare and our grandchildren. what kind of legacy are we leaving to them? Are we going to allow them to be sold into bondage and slavery? No, we can't allow that to happen. And it's just my prayer and my heartfelt prayer for everyone to really not panic. And as I said last night, if you envision yourself on the Titanic, you had people there who believed that the boat wouldn't sink. It can't happen to the Titanic. And, of course, the band played on and people were there. And then, when their shoes started to get wet, there was a little bit of concern. But at this point in time, think of us as being on the Titanic, and rather than panic, let's all just grab our loved one's hand and walk very slowly and very carefully, very deliberately, without being frantic, to the lifeboat, to the best we can. Let's help others into the lifeboats. And we know that there's a shortage of lifeboats. But understanding that, let's take care of those. Let's grab someone who's maybe is not physically able to walk to the lifeboat. And if you're physically able to do it, carry that person to the lifeboat. Of course, I'm speaking metaphorically now, or in allegories or whatever, but you get the idea. And this is what it's all about, because we're one big family here. Whether you're listening to this in whatever country, at whatever time, under whatever circumstances, if you're alone or if you're around the fireplace with your spouse or with your children, we are one family, and the one constant thing, and this is my promise to each and every one of you, and Joe's promise to each and every one of you. We talked today about this. We will do everything in our power to let you know and to be as honest up front and give you the information as we get it. And that is one constant you can count on, and that's from my heart. So that's I just wanted to say
thank
that.
You. That was very nice. And to the people, or Chad said, you're like a father figure. So a lot of people out there.
I got to tell you, go ahead and
then we'll go to calls. I said, I guess you're going to owe a lot of back child support.
That cracked me up, man. I was laughing. I couldn't believe. Okay, yeah, it's just I stand in the line.
Yeah,
I don't know. Wow.
No, it was funny. It was a long week, and got a laugh out of you. 661-244-9839 is the number. We have a half hour left, so we can take a few calls. We're going to go to 360, then 303. 360 first. You're live on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report.
Hello?
You're up.
What's on your mind tonight, caller?
Hey, I just want to say you guys are definitely like a family to me. I've been listening to the show since Steve Quayle came on, and I really enjoy it, and I get a lot out of your show. But I've been really praying about getting silver, getting weapons, and I had a couple of scriptures here. Proverbs 8:10 came to me the other day. Receive my instruction, and not silver and knowledge, rather than choice gold, was one that the Lord really spoke to my heart. And
Proverbs 8, chapter 8:10, you said? Verse 10?
8:10, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and I was just about to buy a junk bag, and then the Lord really spoke that one to me. So, and Steve Quayle had that up for his scripture of the day the other day. And then Proverbs 10:2, treasures of wickedness profit nothing, but righteousness delivereth from death. And that one, treasures of wickedness, I thought of. Now, I'm not a pacifist, but I was thinking guns, built to kill, take lives. Treasures of wickedness profit nothing, but righteousness delivereth from death. So I've really been praying about those two things heavy, and those are the two scriptures the Lord brought to my mind. And, I've been tossing around, do I grab the Constitution and run with it, or do I take my Bible and run with that? And it just seems like Jesus says over and over, love your enemies, you, good to those that hurt you. And I just wanted to run that by you guys because I seem to hear the other side of the story, arm up, be ready to go, get spiritually prepared, but, if somebody's coming for you, send them to hell kind of thing, and it's like the Lord's really, He's really been speaking to me like, I will take you to a place where they won't confront you if you'll put your whole heart with me. It's kind of where I've been led lately, and
if I can bring this up to here in time from my phone, is actually something I was reading this morning, just what you're talking about loving the enemy, and even if I can't get it up here on the phone in the next minute, I'll read it when it does charge or open back up. But we need to love those who persecute us, and for people who are new and that might not have the full understanding of what that means. I know it sounds crazy because it was crazy to me at first, and even once I accepted and understood it, the actual praying part wasn't sincere. But that changed over time, and it's still obviously we're all works in progress. But I've been able to actually pray for Obama with a sincere heart and other people that they may turn and because they're humans. I hope, at least. and in my prayers, I'll say, Lord, if this man is a human and can be saved, I pray that, he does what he needs to do to get saved. But Jesus did bring that message that God will take care and get that revenge. We do not need to worry about that. We do not need to take revenge, have be angry and hateful and hold that grudge. And like you said, lots of people are talking with a rhetoric like, oh, they're going to come get the guns. Well, lock and load, and and then the same people on other days won't have the same attitude. So I do see it changing. But if people could love their enemies, then and more people practice that. I mean, that's the most from what I was understood from what I read today. That is how it just confuses the enemy. I think the Bible uses the analogy and will leave the oppressor with a head of hot coals. And I didn't understand what they were trying to say, but I'll find this reading I was doing earlier, and I will read that. Is there anything else on your mind?
Nope, I just wanted to run that by you guys, so hope you guys have a good one. God bless.
Yeah. Hey, God bless you. Thank you so much for listening.
Hold on.
Wait. Oh, here.
The Hardest Truth of the Bible. This is by Colin Smith. They will be punished with everlasting destruction and shut out of the presence of the Lord. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2:9. To be shut out from God's presence and from his power is to be without hope and without love forever. This is one of the hardest truths in the Bible, but there is something I've discovered. The hardest truths can produce the most tender hearts. If you grasp this most difficult of doctrines, God will use it to soften your heart. He will pay back trouble to those who troubled you and give relief to you who are troubled when the Lord Jesus is revealed. If you've suffered at the hands of other people, or if someone you love has suffered at the hands of others, you will face this question: where is God in all this? How can I believe that God is loving and just when so often good people suffer and those who do evil prosper? This doctrine helps. It tells you that you have not seen the end of the story. God says to the suffering believers, a day is coming when Jesus Christ will be revealed. Then you will see the full measure of my justice and the full measure of my love. Use this to sustain your faith in a suffering world.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Well, caller, that kind of meshes right in with what you said. And, Joe, thank you for reading that. Caller, thanks for your call. We appreciate it. Stay listening. Keep listening. And Steve will be back on, I'm sure. And thank you, caller, by the way. And ladies and gentlemen, I've been getting requests or questions about when this show with the financial advisor, the guerrilla economist V, will be rescheduled. We're still working on that. It's my understanding that he's essentially recovered from his illness, but now it's a scheduling issue. It's really more of a scheduling issue. So we hope to have that done here as soon as possible. So as an FYI.
At least he's not sick, which is...
It's my understanding. Okay, he's not as sick as he was. You know, the flu, it just kind of like hangs on and it just pounds the living daylights out of you. So with that, our prayers are with him, and I'll be talking to Steve this weekend, I'm sure, and we'll get it arranged and get that back on track. But it's amazing what we've been hearing from the financial markets. I just want to say this before you go back to calls. Please keep your eye on. Let's not take our eyes off of what's going on here. People wonder how the U.S. could lose its reserve currency status. I've been getting a lot of questions on that via email. In fact, my inbox is up to over 51,000 emails, which I'm not sure I can ever get through that. But that said, watch the Eurasian trade zone, how that is being built up. The BRICS. It should actually be BRICS. BRICS stands for Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. But we also have to throw in, let's see, two others in there. Where'd my note go? Two other I's in there, and I believe that is, sure. Let me just drop my notes and not...
good job.
Thank you very much.
I'll finish reading this. To restrain your desire to even the score.
Okay.
If it is possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. Do not revenge, but leave room for God's wrath, for it is written, "It is mine to avenge, I will repay, says the Lord." Romans 12:18 and 19. Someone hurts you, your immediate instinct will be to want to hurt them back. They brought you down, and you find a certain pleasure in bringing them down. How do you restrain the desire to even the score? God will repay, so leave the room for his wrath. You do not need to take it into your hands when you know it is in his. You can leave it to him. And in that sentence, those last two sentences, there's an extra message in there. Leave it. You don't need to take it into your hands when you know it's in his. And this goes directly to me. Too often I try to do things my way.
Oh, I can attest to that, and that's from day one. Wow, as a dad, I can attest to that. But can't we
need to turn ourselves to his will? We need to leave it to him. To not take it by ourselves, to give it to the Lord. So we're doing his will, not ours, because that will snare you in a trap, and that you might not come out of, because we're not guaranteed it tomorrow.
Exactly. And what I was trying to think of, and I apologize for my senior moment here, was BRICS, of course, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. We should add in there Iran and Indonesia. Look at the BRICS Development Fund, okay? It's really the Gold Trade Central Bank, actually. They're going to be starting to convert U.S. Treasury bonds into gold bars. And you might think, well, what does that mean, and who gives a whit about that? Well, please, folks, understand the economy is at the heart. Well, I shouldn't say the economy. The push for all the marbles, the wealth, and everything else is really at the heart of what's taking place geopolitically. Russia, well, they've got at least 5 times more gold than they're physically or publicly claiming. So does China, at least 5 times more. They're buying tremendous amounts of gold. They're hoarding tremendous amounts of gold. I've been hearing that, of course, our financial source, V, has stated, watch Japan. That's still operative. In other words, that's still valid. But also watch Italy as being a potential tipping point in this economy. People ask me all the time, well, when's this going to happen? Well, the when, I don't know, but the what, we can at least, it's kind of like being in the season. We could tell the season, we just don't know the day or the hour. Italy, watch Italy, because Italy could be a tipping point as Japan could be as well. Look, as we mentioned earlier in the program, gold could rise up to $7,000 an ounce. Some believe silver between $150 to $250 an ounce. The COMEX, they're corrupt. There's a level of financial engineering taking place here like we've never seen before. The Federal Reserve basically bankrupt. The U.S. dollar is really being targeted for a takedown here by the globalists and by our internal people. This is what it's all about. And pretty soon the Saudis who we are doing the military might for, the Saudis whose agenda we are pushing all across the Middle East, they're soon not going to require the U.S. dollar for trade for oil. And there was one thing in my research that I came up with, and frankly, I had heard this and then forgotten about it, and you know how you write notes, and you've got notes everywhere, and, well, anyway, remember, I believe this was sometime maybe in 2010 maybe, the meeting in Abu Dhabi, the Arab-only conference. There was an agreement made at that time where the Persian Gulf nations were making a deal, or were preparing to make a deal with China and Russia for their military protection. So, you see, remember me saying that the dollar, the value lies in the fact that the dollar actually stands as the world reserve currency, and it has value because it acts to ensure the free flow of oil. Well, that's going to slowly change, and you're going to see Russia and China stepping in to take over that position.
All right. We're going to go back to calls. Area code 303. Thanks for waiting. We're coming to you now. You're live on the Hagmann and Hagmann Report.
Keep me safe, O God, for in you I take refuge. I said to the Lord, you are my Lord. Apart from you I have no good thing. As for the saints who are in the land, they are the glorious ones in whom is all my delight. The sorrow of those will increase who ran after other gods. I will pour out their libations of blood, nor take on their names on my lips. Lord, you have assigned me my portion and my cup. You have made my lot secure. The boundary lines have fallen for me in pleasant places. Surely I have a delightful inheritance. I will praise the Lord who counsels me. Even at night my heart instructs me. I have set the Lord always before me. Because he is my right hand, I will not be shaken. Therefore my heart is glad, and my tongue rejoices. My body also will rest secure, because you will not abandon me to the grave, nor will you let your Holy One see decay. You have made known for me the path of life. You will fill me with joy in your presence, with eternal pleasure at your right hand.
What a fantastic message. I love the way you open up the calls. Always fantastic.
Yeah, indeed. Thank you so very much for that. What's on your radar tonight?
Well, just kind of the frenzy of finding precious metals. I went with my fiancée today to get her some in her hands, and my regular person's feeling that same shortage of silver. He did have some stuff for us, a little bit, but lots of people are calling around, and hearing that the price dropped today only makes me laugh, because when I first started purchasing silver, I give Alex+Jones this one good thing, is he made me realize that the cash I was making isn't going to be worth much one day, and all that hard work I put into it could make me come unglued. So I started purchasing around $32 an ounce, and I watched it go up to $49, and I continued to buy. And now seeing it drop down to $25, it's almost comical to me, but it's not funny. It's just the manipulation is absolutely going on around us. And I had gold in my possession, but what I did is I took the gold in and traded it for silver, because the upside of silver is, I believe, a lot more beneficial to those who are saving. And something I took from what James Wesley Rawls said is, if you don't have money to invest in silver, go get nickels, because nickels are 75% copper. And when you go into a bank and give them $20 and get $20 worth of nickels, you instantly make a higher percentage of that $20, because the 75% copper is worth more. Like a copper penny is worth actually 2 or 3 at this moment. But for those unsure and unable to get silver right now, start stockpiling nickels. I know I keep all 82 and earlier pennies because they are pure copper, or they're a higher copper value before they changed it to zinc. But this is the way we'll be able to bother.
I never thought of that, actually. Okay, so wow.
Yeah, the copper pennies, like you collect a bag full of pennies. You can't legally take them to be sold as copper because they're currency, but
right.
If you have the abilities to melt them down, you could. But yes, caller, the manipulation of the metals is concerning, and one thing I do see with some listeners is they have a problem with gold and silver because of the what scriptures say about heaping up, gold and silver and treasures, and gold and silver will not, you'll throw it into the streets. And I just want to clear some things up, because there seems to be a few misconceptions. Silver and gold were always the currencies throughout history since the beginning of time. And like any currency, whether it's paper money or silver or gold, anything that has value that you put hope into or idolize, or that's bad. We can't do that. Nor can we have an abundance and just hoard like crazy without helping our neighbors. If we have enough, we need to help our neighbors. But also at the same time, we can't look upon gold and silver, as some people seem to do, as a sin to have it, which is a mentality people need to understand is not accurate. If you have your hope and your salvation in the Lord, it's just like money, just like paper money. It's a means to an end. It can be used to help not only yourself but your family and strangers. And if it has no value and we can't use it in the end, then that's fine. But people are looking to get out of the banking system because the FDIC laws have been changed, and we saw Cyprus and how fast the actual paper money and digital money can disappear. So I would say, whatever people are led to do, as long as you don't put your hopes in that metal, you never take your hope away from the Lord.
And I guarantee you, this caller, I guarantee you, You're doing it for all the right reasons, and it's a preservation, a protection. It's a level of protection is all it is. Very good. Wow, you taught me something, actually, caller, about the nickels. And pennies even. Never really gave that a thought.
You can go into James Wesley Rawls' survivalblog.org, I believe, and that's one of his suggestions in there. And it can also double as a defense. If you have enough nickels, you can put them up against the wall, and if there are bullets coming your way, it will slow them down or deflect them away. But on a side note,
we use telephone books actually, and I'm serious. Well, in New York City, we were in a situation where we had to use Manhattan telephone books in the door panels of our vehicle. Long story, but nickels would work even better. Go ahead, caller. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Well, I'm sorry if I jump ahead. We all get excited with what we know. But we want to preserve what we've worked for. And I know the silver I've accumulated, as well as the food I've stored and other means to protection, isn't done so out of hoarding. It's done so out of protecting your name state. I heard a caller say that, having silver is a great way to keep paying your property taxes. And that really opened my eyes and, gave me a different avenue of thought. Those times are coming. I was wearing my Impeach Obama shirt today, and I got a lot of different people coming up and agreeing with me. Who wouldn't if they don't have the right mind? But I remember Deuteronomy 22:26. If someone is coming to kill you, rise against him and kill him first. However, it should not be done in glee. The Lord meant for us to take care of ourselves, to protect our family, the lives of our family and ourselves, and our property, because we can expand our lot as long as we have the Lord on our side and as long as we're doing things in His name and for His will.
Amen to that. You have the proper frame of mind, and of course, stating what you did, the proper frame of reference, using Scripture as the basis, and for that we thank you. God bless you, caller.
Bless you both. Have a blessed weekend.
Thank you.
You too.
Joe, I want to jump in real quick. JB, a listener to this show, host of ATR News, Alabama Truth, alabamatruth.com. Remember, you started out the program. I wish I could be this, I'd like to have this kind of talent, but you started out the program with Alice Bailey and the 10-point charter, which is the foundation for what we're seeing play out in America today. Well, JB from alabamatruth.com, and I posted the link in the chat room, going by the phrase, know the truth and it will make you free. ATR News, it's a radio program, it's a website, alabamatruth.com. JB had created an updated or a visual, if you will, of the 10-point charter, and taken all the points. For example, take God and prayer out of the education system, starting there and going all the way through number 10, and it had put video clips in each one showing each step, dare I say, being accomplished or on their way to accomplishment. A very interesting and relevant to today visual of what you went through point by point at the beginning of the program. And I certainly want to say to JB, thank you. You certainly are a talented and very quick on the draw individual for putting this together the way you did. Once again, it's alabamatruth.com, the 10-point charter by Alice Bailey. I can't believe how quickly that was constructed during the course of this program. So, with the final sentence, you have been warned, and wow, pretty powerful. I didn't go through all of the videos, of course, but just from what I've seen, right on target. So thank you, JB. God bless you, my friend. That's alabamatruth.com.
Yeah.
All right.
Just want to say this real quick. I know when Ms. Price was on, she mentioned a quote that Kissinger made about the military men, and I said in my mind what I thought it was, but it was close, not right on. The quote is, "Military men are just dumb, stupid animals to be used as pawns in foreign policy." End of quote.
And you know what, if I can say this too, we see, if we watch television, or I mean, it's difficult not to. I mean, we watch it for the news, for updates, for the latest of whatever. I mean, we've got monitors all over the place, and when you hear that quote, and then you see, for example, a veteran who has been disabled by an IED, the person's legs blown off or appendages blown off. What a crass and inhumane and inhuman quote by this despicable. It's just despicable.
Yeah, and his latest WikiLeaks release showed how much. I mean, we know Kissinger is a war criminal. He was instrumental in the Vietnam War, especially the Cambodian. The bombings in Cambodia that killed countless people didn't have to happen, but did. And at the same time, Kissinger, the man who orchestrated that, received the Peace Prize for it.
Kind of like Obama receiving the Peace Prize, yet the drone strikes, which, by the way, Joe, the statistic that you had given the other day about the number of drone strikes, the number of deaths as a result of that, comparing Bush to Obama. Now, some might say, well, it's the evolution of the use of this new military implement, but I've got to tell you, I've got a real problem with this war game, or this what would you call them, the games you play on television, the Xbox type features. It's almost as if, folks, isn't it almost as if young people who have grown up playing video games of war are now doing it in real life, desensitized to what they're doing.
Right. Go back to those 10 points. One of those 10 points was to make all, what was it, arts. Let me go to my notes.
Make it abstract. And I always wondered about
corrupt media or corrupt music, paintings, poetry, every expression of art that man makes, make it immoral and occultic.
I spend a lot of time in libraries, and I've got to tell you, some of the greatest artwork I've seen is located in our own public library from the late 1800s, mid-1800s of landscapes, the most beautiful, intricate pieces of artwork. And then you look at these abstract pieces of whatever, it just makes you talk about contrast. And I think it's an assault on our senses. And as you pointed out, this charter points out, that's the whole idea behind it.
Ladies and gentlemen, we've reached the end of our program. I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us and hanging in there with us this week. I know we're all over the place on some days, and today was a really strong show. Thanks to Susan Price and the callers out there. Chad, thank you for calling in and praying. We have and will have a great guest lineup for next week. We have a few. We just don't have the days yet. And we will see you then, unless something comes up and we do a show this weekend. We will see you Monday, each and every one of you, hopefully. God bless you. Enjoy the weekend. Spend time with your family and try to do something nice for anybody as much as you can. We don't know how much time we have left, so let's be grateful and cherish what we do have left.
And tell the person closest to you right now that you love them, and show how much you love that person. God bless.
Have a good night.